Jury duty is the last place I expected to meet someone who'd completely throw off my whole day, and honestly, my whole year. But there I was, stuck in the bland, humming government building downtown, surrounded by a sea of strangers who looked like they'd rather be literally anywhere else. That's when he showed up. I'm not gonna lie, I was already dreading the whole thing, sitting through hours of legal jargon, trying not to fall asleep on a plastic chair. Sounds like a nightmare, right? I'd been there for maybe 20 minutes, flipping through some outdated magazine, when the guy next to me sat down. Not just anywhere, but right next to me. Which, if you know anything about jury duty waiting rooms, is basically prime real estate. Most people spread out like they're avoiding catching the plague, but this guy plopped down like it was the best seat in the house. He caught my eye briefly and gave me this half smile, like he knew something I didn't. Tall, dark hair, a little messy, but in a way that looked intentional, and eyes that were sharp, but not in an intimidating way, more like someone who's been paying attention to the world and found it kind of funny. Something about him felt different, like he wasn't here just because he had to be. I tried to focus on the paperwork we were supposed to fill out, but my eyes kept drifting back to him. He was scrolling on his phone, fingers moving fast, occasionally chuckling at something I couldn't see. I was wondering why he seemed so relaxed when everyone else had that glazed over, trapped in a bad movie vibe. Then, he did something unexpected. He looked up and said, "Hey, do you mind if I ask you something?" Now, in any other situation, especially one like jury duty, I'd probably have just nodded awkwardly or said, "Sure," without thinking. But there was something in the way he asked, like it wasn't just small talk. So I said, "Go ahead." He paused, like weighing the words. Have you ever had one of those days where you're supposed to be somewhere boring, but you kind of hope something different happens? Like maybe meeting someone who flips the script? I laughed a little, surprised by how genuine he sounded. Yeah, not gonna lie, that's why I'm here, trying to convince myself I'll get out early. He grinned. Me too. And that was when things took a turn I never saw coming. Before I could even guess what he was about to do, he pulled out 2 movie tickets from his wallet. I have these for a screening downtown in an hour. It's free, no strings. Thought maybe if jury duty drags on, we could ditch this place for a bit. What do you say? I blinked. This was less of a, "Hey, wanna hang out?" and more of a spontaneous escape plan. Part of me wanted to say no. After all, you're not supposed to just bail on jury duty. But another part, the part that was already bored out of my mind and oddly drawn to this guy's unfiltered vibe, it said, "Hell yeah." I looked at him, really looked, and realized I had no idea who he was. No name, no backstory, just a stranger with an out-of-the-blue invitation that could turn this tedious day on its head. So I nodded, feeling a sudden spark of something like adventure. "All right," I said, "let's do it." That's how a day I thought would be completely wasted turned into the start of something way more complicated and way more interesting than I ever expected. But all of that, well, that's a story for what happened next. Because he had other plans, and I was about to find out exactly what those were. We stood up, gathering our stuff. I glanced around the waiting room and saw the usual mix of boredom and mild irritation on faces around us. When you're at jury duty, everyone acts like they're trapped in some kind of purgatory, except for us, apparently, who were about to skip out. I could feel the weight of that little rebellion, and honestly, it felt pretty damn good. The guy, whose name I still didn't know by the way, held the tickets up again like a kid showing off a secret prize. "I'm Ezra," he said, sticking out his hand. I shook it, surprised by how steady his grip was. "I'm Nate." Ezra smiled, this time with a little more softness. "Nice to meet you, Nate. Let's see if this breaks the monotony." We slipped out of the building, and the fresh air hit me like a punch. The courthouse was sandwiched between a couple of bland office buildings, but just a block away, the city felt different, quieter, almost inviting. Ezra led the way, weaving through side streets like he knew exactly where he was headed. I was trying to process the fact that I was basically playing hooky with a total stranger, but his energy was contagious. He talked easily about the film, some indie flick starring a guy he said was his favorite actor. But there was something else underneath the words, a kind of nervous excitement that made me curious. "So, you come to these screenings a lot?" I asked, glancing at him. "More than I should," Ezra said with a laugh. "They're a nice escape, you know. Plus, you meet interesting people, like jury duty escapees," I chuckled. "Yeah, Definitely not the usual place to meet someone. We arrived at this tiny, old theater tucked between a cafe and a bookstore. The marquee was modest, just a few letters announcing the film's title. It felt like stepping into a different world compared to the courthouse. Warmer, full of stories waiting to be told. Inside, the lobby was dim, the smell of popcorn hanging in the air. Ezra handed me one of the tickets, and we found seats near the middle. As we waited for the lights to dim, I realized I was actually looking forward to this, to being here with him, even though I barely knew anything about him. The movie started, but honestly, my attention wasn't fully on the screen. Ezra kept stealing glances at me, like he was trying to figure out if I was as out of place as he probably was. I caught myself smiling more times than I expected. After the credits rolled, Ezra whispered, "Not bad, right?" I nodded. "Yeah, better than I thought. Thanks for dragging me out." He shrugged, grinning. "Hey, sometimes you just have to shake things up a bit." As we stepped back onto the street, the evening had turned cool and calm. The city lights twinkled, and for a moment, everything felt like it was exactly where it was supposed to be. So I said, feeling bold, "What made you risk skipping jury duty for this?" Ezra's smile faltered just a bit, and he looked away. Honestly, I didn't know what else to do. I'd been stuck in a rut. Work, the same routines, feeling kind of invisible. Today, I just wanted to do something unexpected. I nodded, understanding more than I wanted to admit. Yeah, I get that. Sometimes you just need a break from being responsible. We started walking, no real destination in mind. The night felt alive, like it was inviting us to explore. Ezra talked about his job. He worked at a bookstore, and I shared a bit about mine, the usual office stuff that sometimes felt like it was pleasing the life out of me. There was an easy rhythm between us, like two people who had just stumbled upon something rare. Eventually, we found ourselves sitting on a bench in a park, just watching the city hum around us. Ezra shifted closer, and the hesitation in his eyes was gone, replaced by a quiet hopefulness. "Do you think jury duty would be more bearable if everyone could just bail with a stranger and watch a random movie?" He joked. I laughed, but then said, "Maybe. Or maybe it's just about finding the right person to escape with." He looked at me then, a little vulnerable, like he was deciding if this moment was real, or just another scene in his rut. I reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead. "Sometimes, the unexpected plans turn out to be the best ones," I said. He smiled softly, and something in that smile told me that this night, this random, impulsive night, was about to change a lot more than just our jury duty schedule. But neither of us knew exactly how yet. We stayed on that bench for a while, just soaking in the quiet buzz of the city at night. The cool air felt like a reset button, and honestly, I hadn't felt this relaxed in weeks. Ezra leaned back a bit, pulling out his phone again. Instead of scrolling, he was staring at it like he was trying to figure something out. "Hey," I said, breaking the silence. "You okay?" He glanced up, caught off guard. "Yeah, sorry. I was thinking about how today started, and how weird it feels that I actually left jury duty and ended up here, with you." I grinned. "Yeah, that's not your everyday story. What's the plan now? You think they'll send someone after you?" Ezra laughed. "If they do, I'll tell them I was abducted by a charming stranger and taken to an indie movie. Probably won't buy it, though." I chuckled, feeling that easy vibe growing between us. "So what's your usual move when life gets boring? Do you just go to movie screenings, or is this your secret escape hatch?" He looked thoughtful. "I guess it's my way of shaking things up. But honestly, it's rare I do anything spontaneous like today." I nodded. "Same here. I'm usually the guy who follows the rules, pays his dues, even when it's dull. Today felt like a risk. Worth it, though." Ezra's eyes met mine, and there was this flicker in there, like he was deciding if maybe risks could be something to hold on to, not run from. We talked for a bit more, about everything and nothing. Our favorite movies, goofy things from childhood, awkward first crushes, the usual stuff that somehow feels more real when it's just two people in the middle of a city park, under the glow of street lamps. At some point, I realized the park was closing soon, and we both had work in the morning, yet neither of us was eager to end the night. "Okay." Ezra said, standing up and stretching. Tomorrow, I'm definitely going to get a stern call from the courthouse. But tonight, I'm not ready to go back to responsible yet. I followed him up. What do you suggest? He grinned mischievously. There's this little late-night diner nearby. Best pancakes in the city. You in? I'm starving, I admitted. The diner was exactly what you'd expect. Neon signs buzzing softly, vinyl booths, the smell of coffee and syrup hanging thick in the air. We slid into a booth near the window, our conversation picking up like we'd known each other far longer than a few hours. Ezra ordered pancakes with extra syrup, and I went for the classic eggs and bacon. As the plates arrived, the diner's late-night crowd was a mix of night owls and insomniacs, but it felt like our own little bubble. So, I said between bites, "What's your story, Ezra? Like, really? You said you work at a bookstore, but what else? What's got you feeling stuck?" He sighed, the playful edge in his voice softening. I guess I've been in the same place for a while. Same job, same routine, and not much that feels like it's moving forward. I have dreams, things I want to do, but sometimes it just feels easier to stay put. I could relate more than I wanted to admit. I get that. I'm in finance, I said, which should be exciting if you like numbers, but it's mostly just deadlines and dull meetings. Some days I wonder if I'm just going to be stuck doing this forever. Ezra nodded. Feels like we're both waiting for a jumpstart. Our conversation drifted into quieter moments, the kind where you don't have to fill the silence with words. When the check came, neither of us was ready to say goodbye. So you think we'll get caught for ditching jury duty? I joked, standing up. He laughed. If we do, I'm blaming you for the distraction. We stepped back into the night, the city lights wrapping around us like a promise of something new. Can I see you again? Ezra asked, surprising me. I paused. This whole night had been a whirlwind, an unexpected detour. But yeah, I wanted to see where this could go. Yeah, I said, genuine. I'd like that. He smiled, that same hopeful look from earlier. Good, because I think jury duty might have been the best mistake I ever made. I laughed, and as we parted ways, I realized that sometimes the best plans are the ones you never make. And I couldn't wait to find out what happened next. The next morning, I woke up with this weird mix of excitement and anxiety buzzing in my chest. Jury duty was still looming, but after last night, it didn't feel quite as oppressive. Not because I wanted to go back, but because something had shifted. I wasn't just another face in a dull government waiting room anymore. There was Ezra. And the possibility of, something. I checked my phone, half hoping for a message from him. Nothing. I told myself not to overthink it. Maybe he was busy, or maybe last night was just a one-time thing. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I wanted to hear from him. Later, as I got ready for work, my phone buzzed. It was a text from him. Hey, jury duty rebel, still alive and unarrested. Coffee tomorrow? I smiled, the kind of smile that makes your cheeks hurt. I typed back, definitely. Where and when? We settled on a little cafe near his bookstore. The place was cozy, with mismatched chairs and shelves full of old books lining the walls. When I walked in, Ezra was already there, looking a bit more put together than yesterday, but still with that same easy, genuine vibe. Hey, he said, standing up to greet me with a hug that felt surprisingly comfortable for a first meeting. Hey, I replied, sitting down across from him. So, no calls from the courthouse yet? He laughed. Not yet. If they do, I'm sending them your way. We ordered coffee and dripped into conversation like it was something we'd been doing for years. He told me more about his bookstore job, the little quirks of working with old books and eccentric customers. I shared more about my work, the stress, and the occasional moments that made it bearable. Somehow, the more we talked, the more I realized how much I wanted to know about him. Not just the surface, but the real Ezra, the one who'd pulled a wild move yesterday and made me want to take a chance. So I said, what's something about you that no one would guess? He thought for a second. I'm terrible at small talk. Like, really bad. I usually avoid it. I laughed. That's ironic, considering how well you're doing right now. He smiled shyly. I guess I just feel comfortable around you. It's like I don't have to pretend. That hit me harder than I expected. There's something rare about that kind of connection, the kind where you can be yourself without the usual walls. I wanted to hold on to that. Our coffee dates became a quiet tradition. We'd meet a couple of times a week, sometimes for coffee, sometimes for walks or random movie screenings. Each time, the walls between us peeled back a little more. Ezra's laugh became one of my favorite sounds. His stories, his quirks, the way he got animated about books. I soaked it all in. One evening, we were wandering through a local art fair, the streets alive with colors and music. Ezra stopped in front of a booth selling handmade jewelry. He picked up a simple silver ring and looked at me. "What do you think? Too much?" I shook my head. "Not at all. You should get it." He slipped the ring on, fidgeting with it nervously. "I don't usually do stuff like this, spontaneous gifts or whatever. That's kind of the point, isn't it?" I teased. He laughed, the kind of laugh that makes your heart skip a beat. "Yeah, I guess it is." In that moment, I realized how much this had all changed me. Jury duty, the dullest thing on my to-do list, had led me to someone who made me want to take risks, to embrace the unexpected. But life doesn't hand you perfect moments without complications. One night, as we sat on my couch watching a terrible horror movie, Ezra's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and then looked away quickly. "Everything okay?" I asked. He hesitated. "Yeah, just some family stuff." I didn't want to mention it before. I reached out, squeezing his hand. "You can tell me." He sighed, then opened up about his strained relationship with his parents. How they didn't understand him, how coming out had been rough, how he sometimes felt like he was carrying that weight alone. Hearing him like that, so raw and real, made me want to protect him from all the hard things. But more than that, it made me grateful he trusted me enough to share. "I'm here," I said quietly, "for whatever you need." He looked at me, eyes glistening. "Thank you, Nate." That night I realized this wasn't just a fling or a distraction. This was real, and messy, and worth every moment. Jury duty might have been the start, but Ezra was becoming something much bigger, the kind of unexpected plan I never saw coming but couldn't imagine turning away from. Days turned into weeks, and with each one, Ezra and I slipped further into this strange, exhilarating thing we didn't have a name for yet. It was like discovering a new city by wandering its alleys without a map, sometimes confusing, often spontaneous, and always carrying this electric sense that something was unfolding. One Thursday evening, I found myself standing outside his apartment building, nervously fumbling with my keys. We'd been seeing each other regularly but hadn't quite crossed the threshold into official. Part of me wanted to say it out loud, but the other part was terrified of ruining the rhythm we'd found. The door buzzed, and Ezra's face appeared on the little screen by the lock. "You coming in, or just practicing your lock-picking skills again?" I laughed, pressing the button to buzz me in. "Just nervous, apparently." He opened the door before I even made it upstairs, grinning like he knew exactly what I was thinking. "Come on in." His apartment was small but cozy. Books everywhere, some plants, art on the walls that felt personal. He kicked off his shoes and sat down on the couch, patting the spot beside him. I sat, and for a moment neither of us said anything, just absorbing the quiet. "Do you ever think about how weird it is?" Ezra finally said, tracing patterns on the cushion. "How jury duty, a total drag, ended up being this thing between us." I smiled. "Yeah. It's like the universe was bored and decided to shake things up." He looked at me, eyes searching. "Nate, I want to say something. It's kind of scary." "Try me," I said, heart suddenly racing. He took a deep breath. "I don't want this to be just a fling or some spontaneous escape. I want something real. With you." I felt like I'd been holding my breath and finally exhaled. "I want that too, more than I thought possible." He grinned, relief washing over his face. "Good, because I was worried you'd think I was crazy." "Not at all." I reached out, taking his hand in mine. "I'm all in." That night we talked late into the early morning, sharing fears, dreams, the little things that made us who we were. Ezra told me more about his family, the disconnect, the pain, but also the hope he clung to. I shared parts of myself I rarely let anyone see. It was raw and messy, but it felt like the kind of honesty that builds something unbreakable. Over the next few weeks, our bond deepened. We fell into a comfortable rhythm of shared meals, long walks, and quiet nights watching movies or reading side by side. Ezra introduced me to his world of dusty novels and indie music, and I showed him the parts of the city I loved, the hidden coffee shops, the parks with secret trails. One weekend, we decided to take a day trip to a nearby lake. The weather was perfect, sunny with a gentle breeze. We packed a picnic and drove out in Ezra's beat-up car, the radio playing a mix of 90s hits and local radio chatter. At the lake, we wandered the shoreline, our feet sinking into the cool sand. Ezra tossed a pebble into the water, his eyes reflecting the sunlight. "I've never done this before," he said quietly. "Done what?" Felt like I belonged somewhere, like I wasn't just passing through. I smiled, stepping closer. "Maybe you're not." He looked at me then, and the vulnerability in his gaze nearly broke me. I reached out, brushing a stray strand of hair behind his ear, and he leaned into my touch. That afternoon, as the sun dipped low, we sat on a blanket, sharing stories and laughter, feeling like we'd found a little corner of the world just for us. But life, as it does, threw in a curveball. A couple of days later, Ezra got a call that rattled him. His parents wanted to meet, not just to catch up, but to talk, maybe even try to mend fences. He was torn. Part of him wanted to give it a shot. Another part was terrified of reopening old wounds. I offered to go with him, and after some hesitation, he agreed. The meeting was tense. His parents were cautious, their words clipped but trying. Ezra held himself with quiet strength, but I could see the cracks underneath. Afterward, we walked in silence. Finally, Ezra stopped, eyes dark. "I don't know if they can change," he admitted, "but I want to believe they can." I pulled him close. "They don't define you. You're not alone anymore." He sighed, resting his head on my shoulder. "Thank you for being here. For everything." That night, as we fell asleep tangled together, I realized just how much Ezra had come to mean to me. Jury duty might have been the weirdest start to a relationship ever, but it led me to someone who made me want to be better, to take chances, to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could find home in another person. And honestly, I wasn't ready to let go of that. Not now, not ever. The days after that meeting with Ezra's parents carried a kind of quiet tension I hadn't expected. It wasn't that he pulled away. In fact, quite the opposite. He became more present, more open, like he was trying to anchor himself in something steady after the emotional storm. But I could tell he was wrestling with things inside, stuff he wasn't ready to say out loud yet. One night, we were sprawled on my couch, the hum of the city just outside the window. Ezra was tracing patterns on my arm, not absent-mindedly, but like he was trying to communicate without words. "Hey," I said softly. "What's on your mind?" He looked up, eyes a little distant. "I'm scared, Nate, about what comes next. About being myself openly and what that means for the people I love." I nodded, feeling the weight of that. "Yeah, I get it. It's terrifying to risk rejection, but you're not alone in this." He smiled, a little shaky. "Thanks for that. Honestly, before you, I thought I'd have to face all this on my own." I squeezed his hand. "We're in this together." That night, as we lay side by side, I realized how much Ezra had shifted from the man I met sitting next to me at jury duty. He was still that spark of excitement and unpredictability, but now layered with something deeper: vulnerability, courage, and a quiet determination I admired. The next morning, I got a text from him. "Want to help me with something this weekend? Could use a partner in crime." Curiosity got the better of me. "What kind of crime?" "Not the illegal kind," he joked. "But I'm trying to organize a community reading event at the bookstore. I'm nervous about pulling it off. Could use moral support." I was all in. I knew Ezra's bookstore was more than just a job to him. It was a sanctuary, a place where stories and people could connect. Helping him felt like an extension of us. Saturday came, and we spent the day setting up the little event. Chairs arranged, books displayed, posters hung. Ezra's nerves were visible, but he kept cracking jokes, trying to lighten the mood. Watching him in his element was some kind of beautiful. When the first few people trickled in, I saw him relax. People chatted, browsed books, and the room filled with a quiet buzz of connection. Ezra introduced me as his partner in crime, and I caught the soft blush on his cheeks. Later, as we packed up, one of the regular customers, a kind, older woman with glasses, pulled Ezra aside. "Your boyfriend's quite the helper," she said with a knowing smile. Ezra grinned, then turned to me. "Looks like I'm letting the secret out." I laughed. I don't mind being official. Walking home, hand in hand, the city felt warmer somehow. Ezra stopped under a street lamp, pulling me close. "Nate, I want you to know, this, us, it means everything. I'm scared of what the future holds. But with you, I think I'm ready to face it." I cupped his face, my voice steady. "We don't need to have all the answers right now. Just promise me we keep choosing each other." He smiled, eyes shining. "I promise." Life continued its messy dance. Work stress hit hard some days. Ezra faced ups and downs with his family, but we leaned on each other. We learned when to push forward and when to just sit in silence, holding hands against the chaos. One evening, we were at a small dive bar downtown, celebrating a minor win. Ezra sold a rare book he'd been hunting for months. The place was loud, filled with the clink of glasses and muffled conversations. Ezra raised his glass. "To the unexpected. To jury duty," I added with a grin. He laughed. "Who knew that waiting room was the start of all this?" I looked around, then back at him. "You ever think about what might have happened if you hadn't sat next to me that day?" He shrugged. "Honestly, I don't want to imagine that." We toasted again, the glow of the night wrapping around us like a promise. As we left, walking into the cool night, Ezra slipped his hand in mine. "Ready for the next chapter?" I smiled, heart full. Always. Months passed, and with every day, Ezra and I grew more comfortable in this curious, shared life we were building. It wasn't perfect. Far from it. There were still moments when old doubts or worries crept in, but they didn't feel as heavy anymore, because we faced them together. One Sunday afternoon, we found ourselves back at the park where we'd spent that first day by the lake, the same gentle breeze, the sun filtering through the trees. We sat on a bench, shoulders touching, hands intertwined without thinking. Ezra looked over, his smile warm but a little shy. "You know, I never thought I'd find something like this after all the crap with my family and feeling stuck." I squeezed his hand. "Me neither. It's funny how jury duty, the most boring, annoying thing, ended up changing everything." He chuckled softly. "Yeah, who knew a mandatory civic duty would lead to me finding someone I care about this much?" I watched the way his eyes caught the light, the way his presence somehow made the city feel less overwhelming and more like home. "I want you to know," I said, voice low, "that I'm here. Not just for the easy days, but for everything. The messy, uncertain stuff too. You don't have to carry any of it alone." He leaned his head on my shoulder, quiet for a moment. "Thank you, Nate, for being the person I didn't know I was waiting for." We sat like that, the city's sounds fading into the background, and in that simple moment, everything felt right. There was no grand declaration or dramatic gesture, just two people who had taken a chance, embraced the unexpected, and found something real. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with soft hues, I realized that sometimes the best stories don't come from planned chapters, but from the moments you never see coming. And this, Us, was exactly the kind of story I wanted to be a part of. It was the spark that started it all.